is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 126, 127, and 128. In these episodes, we get a wrap-up of a kind about the Alabasta arc, and I'm just really, really, really hopeful. I'm so hopeful. Just fingers crossed that maybe there's a chance that Mr. 2 is going to join the crew after all. Maybe. I know, it's probably not going to happen. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Bernadette for commissioning this episode. Bernadette is here in the chat talking about using a keratin treatment. Yes, ma'am, I have done that also. And actually, the treatment that I was talking about before I started recording is really, really similar to a keratin treatment in a lot of ways. But nobody listening to this right now cares about my hair care treatment. Or maybe you do. If you do, check out TikTok because I'm about to post a video about it. But these trio of episodes, so last week I said something about how I was surprised that you guys didn't want me to read or didn't want me to watch 3 episodes because it ends on like such a cliffhanger. And then once I watched these 3 episodes, it made more sense to me because this does feel like it's a little bit more stretched out. You know what? I'm being a little bit too diplomatic here, I think, because honestly, I will tell you guys the truth. The first 2 of these 3 episodes are really slow, like achingly slow. It was tough. I mean, this is the sort of moment where I think about what it was like to watch this when it aired in real time. And I don't think I would have stuck with the show if this was the pacing that I was getting from week to week. It's one thing when I'm watching it all in a shot, and even though it's slow, I know I'm going to get an answer shortly. It's a very different thing to have another episode the week after that's almost all repeated footage from the previous episode. And this show does the repeated footage thing a fair amount anyway, but like this was pretty egregious. I felt this was like, it just seemed like a lot more extreme than it had been. And unfortunately, I've ended up in this place with Vivi where I want Mr. 2 to join the crew a whole lot more than I want Vivi to join the crew. And I feel like there's a sort of... I feel like maybe I'm supposed to want Vivi to join the crew a little bit more than I do. I'm really curious where you guys all fell on this when you watched this, because it's such a shame. I don't want to feel this way about Vivi, but this episode is the first of the 3. It was almost all Vivi scream crying, stop fighting. And that was like all she said almost for a straight up like 20 minutes. And I felt so bad for this voice actress because she's genuinely screaming. Like there is nothing about this that is like, you know, it feels like they had her stand several feet away from the mic and actually scream in the booth because her voice is starting to sound hoarse. There's just a quality to it that I was like, no, that was real. She definitely actually did that. And it is so tiresome. I'm getting the bad stuff out of the way here because I want you guys to know I didn't hate these 3 episodes at all. In fact, I'm delighted at the direction that they wound up going in. But I have to start off with the first 2 and how I felt about them. And it's a difficult place to be because I was enjoying Vivi so much when she first joined the group and was excited to see another female character. And now I am just so done with her. I truly am. And it really I feel like the reason that I am so done with her is because the writers feel like they're so done with her. I don't And by writers, I guess I just mean Oda because he's the only one. But I wonder if he just sort of like hit a wall in terms of knowing what the fuck to do with Vivi. Because it just seems like the function she was meant to perform was to get the crew to Alabasta, and then they would handle everything, and she would just be absolute dead weight. And the only thing that she ever really does is she figures out where the cannon is. Fine. And then eventually, when there's, the moment of the crowd going into silence and she yells, "Stop fighting," and everybody looks up and finally sees her, then that sort of motivates them to stop because they realize that she's actually alive and she's back. But otherwise, she just contributes almost nothing. So she's really just a vehicle to getting them to their next mission. And it just doesn't seem like there's a lot that she brings to the table beyond that. We've seen her do her like fight trick several times now with her weird slings is the wrong word. They're like spinning knives. I don't even know what you call that kind of weapon. But she absolutely never has like succeeded in a fight. It doesn't feel like. It just seems every time she's ever gone up against anybody, we have this moment of her like kind of impressive posturing with her spinning knives and maybe floating in midair in the crazy way that she did. And then it just falls flat and she doesn't actually manage to make a dent. So by the time these 3 episodes wrap, it really feels like Vivi is falling on the side of like, I don't think I should go. Now is not the right time, which frankly, I swear to God, if she does go, it won't just be that I'm irritated by the fact that she's joining the crew because I don't want her to join the crew. It will also be that we like did all of this to get you back to the place that you're supposed to rule and take over, and you're just going to fucking abandon it and go and be a pirate. Like, that's just absolutely not the move, Chief. So that's what I'm thinking she's also thinking, like when she has that little conversation with Karoo, who is asleep, so I guess one can't call it a conversation really. She seems to be like trending in that direction, but we still have time. They are still planning to like circle around in this other bay and find her in case she decides to change her mind. And, I mean, I guess if there might be something that he has still up his sleeve regarding a thing to do for her. But since we're in the seat of her power, one could argue, and she still feels super boring, I don't think bringing her further out of her element is going to help that situation. Florian says the struggle from week to week is real. Ryan says the contrast between the pacing between shows like this and shows like FMA Brotherhood is mind-boggling. Yes. And I will admit, I actually make sure to watch this show first because Brotherhood is so much more fast-paced that I know I will be even more impatient if I watch that and then go to this. So I always make sure to watch One Piece first and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood last. I wish more anime waited until the series was more completed to start adapting it. And this is just becoming a thing with like all television now. I mean, I feel like Game of Thrones really set a dangerous precedent in terms of deciding to do that with such a major series that's actually like live action too. Can we just stop with that? Like, just don't do it, everybody. Especially when George already had the reputation of like a decade between books. Bernadette, when I watched it, I was like, this bitch better not join the crew because she is dumb as shit and also useless and I don't like her. Look, she was dead weight from the start in Laboon. Honestly, yeah. Like I said, we've never seen her fight and win. It's actually kind of bananas that she wound up as high up on the Baroque's like ladder as she did, because I don't really know how she got there. Florian says, I like Vivi, and first I wanted to join here, but now I can see why people don't like her so much. I'm sorry, Florian. I always feel bad when somebody's like, I used to like a character until you like talk shit about them and made me change my mind. And part of me is like, I'm glad that I could persuade you to my opinion. And another part of me is like, I'm sorry that I kind of ruined something that you loved. Gabriela says, I'm loving this so much. I've never been a big Vivi fan and always get bullied online for it. Ooh, is that like a thing? You know, I should have known that was a thing because fandoms get really defensive of characters, and there's like no rhyme or reason to it sometimes. What I feel like goes on a lot in fandoms is they will take a character that's like, I would think everybody would objectively agree that they were fine, but not really anything. And people decide, I want to be a fan of somebody who everybody isn't a fan of. So I'm going to pick this sort of weirdo and really stand for them in a way that's like, why? You know, this was something that happened. I know that this might get a little bit of pushback, and it's fine. But I had a weird reaction to everybody standing Barb from Stranger Things. Do you guys remember this whole thing? Barb was like this small side character who, spoiler alert, things don't go well for her. And she's like kind of dorky looking. And I kind of wonder if that's not part of why people were into her, because she was one of the people on the show who like looks the least conventionally attractive. And it became this weird like thing to stan Barb. And I think I probably even participated in this a little bit. But why? Like, she's fine, but it wasn't really, you know, I don't know. Fandoms can be really weird like that. I think people just, they want to be part of the fandom, but they also want to not like go with the flow of the rest of the fandom. And so they dig their heels in about a thing that's like not really worth it. Ziggs says, to be fair, I feel like she was less bad in the manga, but the episodes made her a lot less sympathetic for me, sadly. Bernadette, hashtag Vivi hate. Gabriela says, Vivi has a big following. Lots of people want her in the crew. Florian says, not Vivi hate. She's fine. Not the best, but fine, in my opinion. But I can see what you all mean. Yeah, I don't even want to say that I hate her personally. I totally get if you guys do, especially like if there's more coming with her. I mean, God knows, you know, but it's just for me, I just don't really see the point of her. Everybody brings something very distinctive to the table in terms of their character and what they can like, their skill set that they bring to the crew. And Vivi doesn't have anything. I truly can't think of anything. She's like, the things we've seen her do are be bad at fighting. I want to say help them cross the desert, but help is in quotes because she doesn't tell them about any of the many dangers. And that becomes like a running joke that she's like so poorly prepares them for the whole journey. She has no like strategic thinking. She's got no like medical knowledge. There's nothing about her that I can think that brings a dimension of skill that we haven't already got. I mean, you know, even Mr. 2, fingers crossed, even Mr. 2 is like so entertaining in a way that like we had way back Luffy talking about how they needed to like hire some musicians for the crew, which not a priority, not something that I particularly want to see, but that's at least a different thing, you know? Vivi, it's just like her ability is that she cares a lot, and that's real boring. It is not an active trait. That's not helpful, really, caring a lot. In fact, what Crocodile says about her in the last episode about like, this is why I told you to like drop her because she's a burden. He's not wrong about that in terms of like her function within everything. She is sort of a detriment. So, Florian, one thing she does great is tell Luffy he is a bad captain when Nami is sick on Drum Island. Okay, that's fair. That's fair, Florian. She does give him the what for, and I did appreciate that because somebody needed to say something because holy shit. But yeah. This, and guys, I swear to God, I am covering so many things where it's like a lot of guys and then one girl, and the girl is the one person who's like reasonable and in charge in a way that's like effective. And oh man, I'm starting to get really irritated by it. It is tiresome. Can we have some competent men, please? Like a little bit sometimes, please. But anyway, okay. So I just had to get that out of the way because truly her screaming stop fighting, I would like a little bit to go back and take account of how many times she says it and how long that goes on. It is weird that it feels like the show is making it a theme that nobody ever hears her, because there's a point at which when the crowd goes quiet, Nami says they finally heard Vivi's voice. And I was like, I mean, there was something about it that felt like what I was supposed to be feeling here was she's finally broken through and succeeded in what she's trying to do. But that's not really how it comes across. It's just like circumstantial outside forces caused everybody to fall silent. It had nothing to do with her. And she just managed to continue screaming, which I like, you know? So it's a weird, like, everybody else, to bring it back to sort of having your dream that you're pursuing or having your skill that you're good at, everybody else has had a really distinctive, like, aim when we meet them the first time that they're going for. And they may not actually have succeeded in it, but like even by now for Zoro becoming the strongest swordsman, but they make some significant progress in a way that feels like they took control of their lives. And with Vivi, none of the progress that she has made feels like it's because she was determined so much as that she found the right people to like have her back so that she didn't die, because she otherwise would have definitely died. So anyway, Ryan says we should have done a drinking game for how often she screams to stop fighting. I would be in the hospital now, Ryan, says Florian. Yes, I will say that she says it at least 20 times, and I feel like I'm being pretty conservative. And reminder, it's a pure scream every time she says it. It is a straight up, like, full-throated. Like I said, I felt real bad for this voice actress. This was probably a tough day. So, all right, going back to everything that's actually going on here. Like I said, we get a ton of the repeat of the previous episode with Pell bringing the bomb up into the stratus and it exploding. And I have not seen hide nor hair of Pell, and I am just going to hope that I get my wish and Pell is dead. Fingers crossed. I know that that's sort of like a weird position to take, but honestly, I'm really happy about it because I was super nervous, guys. With 3 episodes, there's a lot of opportunity for him to just turn up all of a sudden. And the only way that I'm going to be like cool with him actually being alive is if him being alive and returning to Alabasta causes Vivi to stay in Alabasta. If he's like the mechanism by which they convince her to not join the crew, I will forgive it then. But otherwise, I'm just going to be like, So everybody is continuing to fight despite this bomb going off overhead. And this is really hilarious to me because I thought that the bomb might cause everybody to actually stop. It seems like Vivi sort of expected that as well. That the shock of it and the violence of it and realizing like how close they all were to being the targets of it would make everybody stop and stare. They do not do that. They just keep the fuck on going. And I actually really like that because that feels pretty true to life. You know, it takes a lot to get a big group that's in the midst of a battle like this to suddenly cease. And it makes sense to me that they don't stop, but I was surprised that in terms of like the universe that they don't stop. I thought for sure, you know, okay, this is going to be the big moment that like causes everybody to look up at the sky and go, that was meant for us. I can't believe that we didn't get hurt after all. Who saved us? What happened? And then we would proceed to Vivi being like, hello, I'm here to save the day. And no, that is not it. So, and we also have all of the people from the Straw Hats on the ground looking up at her in the clock tower screaming, stop fighting. I'm looking at this right now, and so far she has said stop fighting around 10 times. And we are only in not even like I'm in 6 minutes on this episode. So this is when Nami starts crying. And she looks up there and says, "You dummy?" And I was like, unsure, and I still am a little bit, whether she's saying "you dummy" to Vivi or to them, because she turns around and is just like, "What are you guys just standing around for?" But I think she is saying it to Vivi. She shoves Zoro and Sanji out there and is like, "It doesn't matter if you have to punch or kick, just go out there and stop the rebellion, reduce the number of casualties as much as possible." And I love that she is perfectly able-bodied, but she is still shoving everyone else into the fray, including Usopp, who is, again, a mummy in bandages. Can we stop making Usopp fight in this state? Like, he was truly hurt. This boy does not have superpowers. We just got to stop asking so much of him. Usopp, by the way, in this whole section, is the MVP for me. Usopp can irritate me sometimes, but I really feel like he's growing to be my fave. I think it's happening. Florian says, "I like that her feet are like over the edge. That's more powerful to me than the screaming." Yeah, Florian, thank you for bringing that up, because while I was watching this, I thought that was what was going to happen. I thought that she was going to become so upset over the fact that people were still fighting that she was going to like slip and fall, and they would like, their attention would be gotten by her falling and somebody swooping in to sort of save her somehow. And that might be what caused everybody to like look up. And it did occur to me that if that were to happen, it would be a perfect time to like bring Pell back from the dead. But that isn't even a thing. It's just meant to show like her desperation and how literally on edge she is. Get it? So this goes on for a minute. Like I said, we go back to Luffy though. And Luffy does something pretty interesting here that I really enjoyed. First of all, I need to acknowledge the fact that Crocodile has this fur coat. And it is a coat because I think we see sleeves on it, right? But he has literally never put his arms into the sleeves. It has been draped over his shoulder the entire time. Yeah, there's definitely sleeves on that bitch. And he goes through this whole fight and then winds up flying through the air with the greatest of ease. And that never comes off. So that is canon to me, that he has like snaps in the shoulders or like hooks and eyes. And he has this orchestrated to be like just dangling off of his shoulders and look like it's just casually draped there, but it's like really thought out actually. I don't know if you guys have like watched any of the interviews or read any of the ones where Robert Pattinson is interviewed about his participation in Twilight and his role, but there is a moment where he's talking about how frustrating the like pretentiousness of Edward is, and there is a collared shirt that has a wire inside the collar so that they could like make it look just disheveled enough and make it look like it's like, oh, he's a little bit rumpled or unkempt, or he's so stylish that it just happens to fall the exact right way. But it's got a wire to hold it looking like that. So it's meant to look totally casual, but it's super not. And he calls it something like the most pretentious attempt at dishevelment I've ever seen, or something like that. And that's like kind of what I'm picturing here for Crocodile. He seems like the guy who would be spending all day picking out a look and then trying to act like it was nothing. You know, just like, this was just in the back of my closet. I forgot I even owned it. I'm just doing laundry, so I just put whatever on. You know, that feels like, I don't know, he cares a lot more than he wants people to know. Bernadette says he is such a fashion icon. Bernadette, not me simping about Crocoboy. Honestly, him getting his ass kicked here, for some reason, he was like at his hottest. And I don't know if it's just because he is so fucked up that it's like taken the smooth, slick edge off him. But he was working for me more in this trio of episodes than usual. Ryan says that shoulder jacket look always makes me think of a mob boss look. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I said when he first showed up. I was like, he looks like a mobster. Yeah, so this fight with him and Luffy, it starts to get really fun. Because basically, Luffy is just holding on for dear life, and Crocodile is truly impatient. And it's interesting to see the difference between his impatience now versus the impatience that he showed in their first fight. Because in the first fight, it was an impatience that was like much more based from boredom. This was a guy who was feeling like, this is getting really tiresome and I have like better shit to do and you really don't stand any chance. Why are you putting both of us through this? Neither of us wants to do this right now. Come on. And instead, this time, he's impatient because he has already killed this kid twice, as far as he is concerned. And this just isn't sufficient. This fucking kid just keeps getting back up again. And now he's just like, maybe I can't kill him. Wait. But he's an infant. Look at him. He's like 10 pounds. And we have this moment of him looking at Luffy and sort of reevaluating everything. And we have him thinking back to the various times that Luffy's name has come up and people that he has like allegedly defeated, that Crocodile was, he actually says verbatim, oh, it must be a mistake. Like there's no way that this absolute nobody kid took down X, Y, and Z. And now he's starting to realize maybe there wasn't a mistake. Maybe this is exactly who the fuck this kid is. And this is so fun, especially guys. I had been a lot of the time with the dub, I have been turning the subtitles off because I have been distracted by the fact that the subtitles are like the direct translation while the dub has been adapted more to be like more natural in English. And there have been some times where the subtitles, I'm like, I actually prefer that phrasing. But in this one, I left it on by accident. And I was able to, because this was so slow paced, these first two, I was able to pay attention to both and it didn't interfere. And the dub for me is a lot better because there's a lot of idioms thrown around in these two and a lot of like, the kinds of like confrontations where somebody's like joking around. Like there's a moment later on with Chopper where one of their sort of medical professionals, I guess, I don't know what to call the guy. Is he a doctor actually? But he is like so impressed with Chopper, and Chopper is just like, shut up, I can't take it anymore, stop. And like when Chopper is saying it this way, he is clearly coming across as, oh my God, I'm so flattered and I really like appreciate it and I actually don't want you to stop, but I'm going to say stop because stop. And I got it. But when I was reading the subtitles, Chopper's translated as saying, shut up, you bastard. That is super not the vibe. And I think I would have been really confused if I was like, just doing the subtitle for that, because that's clearly like not the energy that's supposed to be happening there, you know. I was just anyway, but yeah, that happens a couple of times here with Crocodile and Luffy, is like moments where they're shit talking each other, and there's a certain type of like energy and swag that you bring to shit talking, and the subtitles just don't really nail that, you know, or they nail it maybe for people who come from a different culture where shit talking goes down differently, but for an English speaking audience it feels very like odd and awkward and a little bit stilted and very formal sometimes, you know. So yeah, I'm just like kind of growing to be much more team dub as things go on. But anyway, so they are continuing to face off here. And Luffy finally gets to a point where he breaks off Crocodile's, what do you call it? His hook. And I was watching this and I just went, oh, dang. Because that's kind of it. Like, it's not as if Crocodile doesn't have a completely badass superpower. And I'm assuming that because Luffy's still bleeding, that just, because that does not come into play here at all. But once that's broken off, that's kind of the only other weapon he's working with, other than like straight up, pugilism. Okay, yeah, so at this point, Luffy is like, I don't care who you are, I will still surpass you, is what it says in the subtitle. And in the dub, it's, I don't care who you are, I'm still going to beat you. And that for me just hits harder, Surpass you feels like different. It just feels much more about maybe almost like a line of succession in a way. Like, I'm going to take the crown away from you. And that's super not what we're doing here. Luffy just wants to beat the shit out of this guy and leave him in the ground bleeding. Like, that's all. It's very simple for Luffy. So, and throughout all of this, I love to, Vivi's dad is just sitting off to the side. Fucking, wow. Oh shit. What? Whoa. Just all the reacts. And Luffy at one point sends Crocodile up towards the ceiling, and he does the Gatling gun, or is it called the Gatling gun? He just basically punches Crocodile so much and so quickly that he's hovering in the air and being supported by the punches. Like, it reminds me of sort of like crowd surfing, except the crowd is just Luffy's fists. And I don't know why, but that shit was fucking hilarious to me. I think it's just because it's so undignified, Like, this guy has really been thinking a lot for himself. Or thinking a lot of himself, I should say. He also says something about how there's scorpion poison in that hook. And he got Luffy with the hook last episode. And it doesn't seem to be slowing Luffy down at all. Do we know why that is? Or is it just supposed to be that Luffy's like so fucking determined that he can't be stopped by scorpion poison? I'm fine with that. Like, if that's what it is. But I sort of wondered if there wasn't more to that I missed. So yeah, this is when we get the whole like flashback thing. Luffy is truly losing it, by the way, in this. He is like, there are veins sticking out in his forehead. His eyes are getting that like red look. I said that he doesn't use the sand power, but I lied. This just popped up again. But Luffy this is when he punches him so many times that he like holds him up in the air, with his bloody fists. So it is really something. This dude looks like he's in a drum while a marching band is introducing. He's just being pounded on. And as Luffy is doing this, the entire town up on the surface is shaking. And this, okay guys, I think I asked this last time and I don't think anybody answered me, but if you did, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But what exactly did the king do to cause this cave-in underground? Because it's like, he takes credit for it, essentially saying like, oh yeah, I led you into a trap to, what's her name? And then, Crocodile is like, you fool, I won't die because of that. I can get out of here, no problem. And we still see that like continuing to happen here, but that isn't, it feels like Luffy's punches are what actually like take it to the next level and cause this thing to actually cave in. It's not even a cave in initially. It's a cave out. It's more an explosion because he sends Crocodile through the crust of the earth and into the air as the two buildings that this like sort of secret temple area they are on top of it on the surface, those buildings like fall to either side as if you're like opening a book. It is... What I really liked about this is the fact that later on, the townspeople are kind of like, what the fuck happened to our town? And there's a great moment where somebody finds the holes that are going all the way through several buildings in a row, and they're like, what happened? It looks like somebody just broke through and you see Sanji remembering that he just decided to take a shortcut and like bust through a bunch of walls, and he's just like, oh wow, look at the time, and just bounces. And that cracked me up. I'm always a fan of characters who are getting to be badass and cause all kinds of damage, having to stop and look at what that damage actually is, because it's not done often enough, and it's the sort of thing that I always think about. And this is something that comes up actually in I think it's Homecoming Spider-Man, the one with the vulture. But that's like, his crews are meant to be sifting through wreckage and like cleaning up the disaster areas that are left behind after the Avengers come in and defend, because they apparently aren't really like helping with that part, which I think is highly questionable, but okay. And it's a basically like huge full-time job for hundreds of people to clean up these areas, which makes sense because they destroy like half the city. And even when there was only the Twin Towers that came down, we know how incredibly damaging that was for literally like a decade. So yeah. Ryan says, I thought there was some kind of self-destruct thing in that room to protect the secret. That's what I think is being said, but I can't figure out how he tripped it, because his arms are pinned by her weird hand power the whole time. So he says something like, I think he says something like that he set it off, and I don't understand how he did it. That's what keeps like nagging at me, is that he managed to do this thing, and then there's no real explanation of, is there a button? Is there like a weird tile that you step on? Is there a magic word that you say? Is there anything, like, we don't ever see it. We just see him saying that he did it, which is sort of weird. As far as I remember, again, like if I'm missing out on something, everybody feel free to tell me, but I'm a little bit puzzled by this. So yeah, again, the king is watching Crocodile spinning through the air and just marveling at like the amount of bedrock that Luffy just punched through. And as he's flying through the air, this is what gets everybody to stop and look in the air, because Crocodile is the guy. This is the one. And everybody has been worried about Luffy. Nobody has known like what he's up to, if he's going to win like any of it. And clearly Luffy has won this round. This is done. And it's an interesting, like, I really enjoyed later on, there's a point where one of the I don't know if it's one of the soldiers or if it's one of the townspeople, they say something like Mr. Crocodile. And I can't remember who it is, but one of the Straw Hats is like, Mr. Crocodile, are we still doing that? Like, do you guys not get it? And after this, he lands. Everybody is still like watching his arcing through the air. And there is still some fighting that's continuing. It's mostly the Straw Hats that are staring and going, oh shit, this means that Luffy has won. But when he lands, there is this like spinning sort of effect that goes up into the air, and it was unclear to me if the spinning sand effect is supposed to have been something that like caused the rain, like, because it seems like it happens at almost the same time as he's flying through. Like, I don't think that's actually true, but the way that it's timed within the show felt like it was insinuating him flying out there stopped whatever was going on with like fucking with the weather. And I'm not sure about that. Jessica says when Crocodile fights with Robin, he has his hands free. Oh, does he? Oh, that would make sense because she's distracted. Okay, that makes sense. The underground chamber is built in a way that makes it collapse when one small column is removed. And so how does he just removes it? Okay, I probably should go back and look at that because I just don't remember. Thank you, Jessica. Because I was just like genuinely like, what did I miss there? But yeah, so at this point, it begins to rain. And Koza is the one who first notices and is telling everybody like, oh my God, do you see this? Do you see this? And the rain is what causes the end to the battle. Everybody stops and is looking up and being like, wait, oh my God. And then they hear Vivi saying, please don't fight anymore. So then we get something wonderful, which is essentially everybody, they have stopped fighting. They're looking at Vivi and she's saying our nightmares are over. And it really looks like everybody's just going to go their separate ways and call it a day. But no, the people are kind of like, well, the rebels still fucked our lives up. Baroque works still fucked our, like, we can't just stop. Why would we just stop? They did shit to us. They killed people. They like almost ruined our entire homeland. You can't be serious. It wasn't just a nightmare. We saw everything that happened. And one of them brings up, or maybe the crowd, like we saw the king attack Nanohana with our own eyes. And I had straight up forgot about them framing the king for that attack. And it makes such sense that they're all just like, how about you shut the fuck up? What do you know? I loved it. I really did. I loved it. They are just so done with this shit. And I can't blame them because it just feels like they've been lied to over and over again, you know? So eventually, we have Cogsworth come forward with that little kid. And he tells everybody about how it looked like it was the king, but it wasn't. That was just like they had a power. It was a lookalike. He got framed, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just, I'm just glad that they are better at listening to this little kid than they are at listening to Vivi. Vivi, maybe you should take some lessons from this child. But yeah, I forgot all about this little subplot and it's cleared up pretty quickly, actually. So then we have the Straw Hats that are acting like they're just going to leave. And I was genuinely surprised by this. And they run into Vivi's dad, but they don't know who he is. So Sanji sees him and is just like, oh, hey, that's our friend. Because he's carrying Luffy. We'll take him back with us. And he's like, oh, so you guys are with him? So you helped bring Vivi back? And they wind up staying at the palace. It is a wonderful sequence of events that I will get to in a moment. First, I just want to talk quickly about, oh my God, I always forget her name. Guys, help me. The government woman. She takes Crocodile into custody and strips him of all of his like rights in terms of being one of the warlords of the sea, etc. We get a montage of all of the other villains who are still like in various places, passed out and or dead. Guys, am I right in if their eyes are all white, they're dead? I don't know. That can't be right because she's like making a statement to Crocodile and his eyes are white and she wouldn't bother doing that if he were a corpse. So I guess that's not it. It's just meant to be like, no, they are fucking down for the count and that's really all it's supposed to mean. Tashigi, thank you, Jessica. But yeah, Tashigi winds up intercepting her own men who want to arrest the Straw Hats because they're like, we're not going to get a better chance than this. And there is a huge bounty on these guys. And she is like, you absolutely are not going to fucking touch them. And I really respected her for that. I appreciated her. She's coming around. She's starting to see the nuance. And I really appreciate it all. So then we go to the palace, and we have this moment with everybody like sleeping, resting, and eventually waking up and having this like crazy meal together. And I could not get enough of this. Y'all, you guys know, once our crew gets some time to just chill and be themselves, it's always my favorite. And this whole scene is so funny. First, we have Luffy slept for 3 straight days. And I love that the first thing that he does is calculate just how many meals he missed by being and he does this by doing like the Hobbit style 5 meals a day, like second breakfast, 11sies, dinner, supper, afternoon tea. And then the Cogsworth's wife, whose name is Terracotta, comes in. Weird name, but sure. And she comes in and she's like the head chef basically, and is like, oh, you want food? I will give you food. And Luffy is like, I can eat a lot. And she says, challenge accepted, and goes for it. So we see her down in the kitchen fucking pumping away, just really like, she is going hard and managing to keep up, despite the fact that they are eating at a rate that is actually embarrassing. Like, the soldiers are watching and they're appalled at their table manners, at how like much they're eating, at how they're like chewing with their mouths open, they're throwing plates all over the place. It's just it's bedlam. And I love all of this so much, guys. There's a moment when Terracotta first comes in and she's brought a pile of food, and Luffy is like, thanks. And there's just and it's not even, it's like a millisecond, and that whole pile of food is gone. And I started cracking up. It was just so abrupt. And after the show has been like pretty serious the past few episodes, there's been like moments of humor, but mostly it's been pretty serious. It was so welcome to just get to see Luffy being a fucking goon. Like, I missed it. You know, I really did. And I do really enjoy also how the soldiers, it takes them a while to like warm up to it, but eventually they start to like find it amusing. They're horrified at first, they're embarrassed at first, they almost start to get angry, and then eventually they start giggling, and then soon enough they're like cracking up along with everybody else. And we see like Usopp balancing a bunch of plates on his nose, and Chopper with chopsticks in his nose, which for some reason is like his go-to move. I don't know why it's always him that's doing that, but that's what's happening. And then everybody goes to the bathhouse, and we get probably the weirdest scene so far. So I don't know what to make of it. So first of all, there's a content warning for nudity on this episode. And I was like, is it going to be because Nami's in a bathing suit again or something? But no, we've got straight up naked men in this episode, and it's like, you know, from behind, but they are full on buck ass naked. So I was like, okay, that's fair. And then they want to know where the girls are taking a bath, and I was like, oh man, can we not? And they do go and spy, and not like, the girls are in towels, except, well, no, Nami's in a towel when she turns around, but she's sort of like let it slide down because Vivi's soaping her back. And I was like, how many fan fictions did this one moment spawn? I bet it was a lot. And they are being so much more sedate. The dudes are like sprinting around and probably would have actually slipped and broken their necks. But the girls are just chilling and talking things over. And it's clear that her and Vivi have gotten a lot closer. And then the boys come in. And at first, Nami is like real irritated with the fact that they are spying. But then she turns around and she just gets up with her towel around and she says, it'll be 100,000 berries per person. And then she opens her towel and says, happiness punch, which is a weird thing. I don't even really know what that is. And all of them begin bleeding from their noses, which Owen has informed me is a thing in anime to indicate that you're horny. Why is it that? A nosebleed? Is this where their nose was wide open? That slang comes from? Because that's like been a term that people use for somebody, like basically like if you're throwing yourself at somebody or if you're extremely open to fucking, they are described as like, oh, their nose was wide open. And I have always been like, what? Why do we say that? But maybe it's related to the nose bleeding thing, perhaps? Ryan says peeking in the bath is a very anime trope. I wish it wasn't. Ah, okay. Florian says Nami is always in control. I love her. Yeah, she does her best to take control of this situation. I don't think she should have gotten her money up front, though. I'm just saying this needs to be more of an OnlyFans situation. Jessica, my least favorite scene from the arc. I hate it. Yeah, it sucks. I won't lie. It does. It's just frustrating. Like, there's just never any group where the woman isn't somehow sexualized in a way that, like, she either did not agree to or is, oh, she's so unconscious of it because she's so effortlessly hot. She doesn't even know she's doing it, kind of thing, you know? And it feels like they do that with both of them. Because of the increased blood pressure, Bernadette is thinking. All right. Okay. Florian says, it is that the blood is pumping so fast so the nose gets bleeding. My dad has that for real, says Florian. Oh, shit. All right. Well, that's such a... Because all of the dudes who are watching, including fucking Eyelashes, Chopper, they're all flung backward and get nosebleeds like in midair in this way. And I have to point out her Vivi's father is there. I just, no. It was already bad enough, but Vivi's dad, no. Nope. His nose is bleeding too later on. And he says thank you to all of them. And they call him a pervert. And I'm like, how is he the pervert though, guys? You were the ones asking where to find them and going and sneaking over there. So yeah. But this is when Vivi and, Nami have the conversation about not knowing what to do and how Vivi's deciding whether or not she wants to join them. And, it's just an overall sort of like, you have to make a choice here. I can't tell you what to do kind of situation. And we also find out that the bounties on all of them have gone way up. And Cogsworth comes in trying to warn them about it. And Vivi is alone because they've already left. And she's like, oh, they're going to be really happy about this, actually. They'll be delighted. And then we get, in the midst of this, he drops the wanted posters. And all of a sudden, we are here with Django and, what was his name? Smooth something? Slick something? And Florian and, forgive me, somebody else, was it Zjay? Somebody in the Discord informed me that based on my description of the thing with Django last week, that I hadn't read it properly and that I had only seen the one panel, and they were correct. Full body, Jessica, thank you. And they told me, and I was like, oh, okay, well then I will definitely go and read it before recording the next episode. I totally forgot. I'm sorry, but I definitely will after this. And it works out actually because I would not have had time to talk about it anyway because I've been going on for too long. But this has definitely made me fucking curious about it because it turns out that Django and Full Body are pirate catchers now. Like, basically, they're working for the Marines. And they have taken down this whole ship full of dudes, and then disco music starts playing, and they just begin dancing, and it becomes something that, like, it turns out this is sort of like their trademark thing, that every time that they win, they wind up dancing and wasting a bunch of time. And the person watching them is a new character. She is also a Marine, and she has long, pale pink hair. And she does this weird thing where she speaks in the third person every now and then. It's not how she speaks all the time, but it's sort of like this is just a thing in this show, is the characters having like a weird vocal tick or signature. And so she'll just be like, mid-sentence, like, of course they are. Hina's disappointed. And she'll just go into third person, and it's really weird. It's not as weird as certain things are, of course, like the ribbit. Don't even get me started. But it's a strange thing because it feels like you could actually meet a person who really does this in real life, you know? And Hina is feeling very much like she's somebody who plays the game a little bit more, because we see a scene earlier with Smoker, and he is with Tashigi and Hina, and they're taking a call, and they're being informed that they're going to get like promotions because they helped take down this, this dude. And Smoker keeps insisting, we didn't do that, though. You should not be giving us the credit for that. We didn't even do it. And Hina is the one who's like, dude, you have to understand, right, that the optics of this have to be that you did it. Otherwise, we're incompetent, and a bunch of fucking pirates came in and did our jobs for us, and that is not acceptable. So shut the fuck up, take the award, and keep our reputation on the level. And Smoker is just like, no. And she says, you're going to be court-martialed. And he says, better that than living a lie. And I'm like, is it though? All right, Smoker, calm down. Okay, kid, just don't. But she and like, I can't actually remember what Tashigi's response to this is. I feel like she was just standing by ready to do whatever it was that Smoker wanted to do. But Hina is very much like aware of overall what the implications of choosing certain actions are going to be. And I just really appreciate that. And I'm fascinated to see what else she does. So then we get this moment where the crew finds out that Mr. 2 has stolen their ship. And I guess this is a flashback because the way this is set up is sort of weird, but we see them like in the dormitory sort of area with Vivi as they're getting this message. And Mr. 2 essentially like baits them into coming down to their ship. And they run down there and find him. And it's really funny because they are reacting with this like sort of panicked attitude, but he is literally just standing there with the ship docked at the shore waiting. And I was like, I don't understand why he's just chilling. And then we find out what's actually going on is that he is waiting for them because there's like all these blockades to leaving the different areas around Alabasta from the Marines, because they're still trying to catch the Straw Hats, even though Tashigi let them go that one time. They're not going to like let it go. And he is hoping that they will basically like smuggle him out with them. And he can say that he stole the ship, but actually he was low-key helping them out because their ship was in a place that the Marines absolutely would have found it right away and impounded it, essentially. So he kind of did them a favor. And he is waving to all of them and crying and saying that he's doing this for friendship And somebody finally calls him out and is like, no, you want to take advantage of the fact that we're going to get you out of here. And he's like, well, I mean, yeah, but also for friendship. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how much I actually want him to become part of the crew. And he winds up in the background dancing with Luffy and Usopp and Chopper. And it is the best. And I love it so much. And he does like a fist pump in the name of friendship, and they all do it and they're fucking wholehearted about it. And then, as he's saying that, as he fist pumps into the air, and Nami just goes, geez. His ship pulls up right next to them, his swan ship, and he says, thanks in advance. And it looks like they are shooting at the Going Merry. But I am not positive that I saw that, because it happens super fast and then we just cut away. And I was a little bit like, is he getting them to say that they're allies so that they will let their guards down? Or is it supposed to be that the crew of his ship is going to ally with the Straw Hats and they're being shot at by somebody else? Because we jump from there to Hina being told, oh, we found the Straw Hats, and her saying attack, of course. But she gives that order after this shot is fired. So I wasn't really sure. The timing in this episode is like the first time I feel like we've done a lot of bouncing back and forth in terms of the timeline, and it is not done super well. It's kind of confusing. Bon Clay is what Florian says. Bon Chan is what Gabriela says is Mr. Chu's real name. I'm not sure which one. Oh my God, right. And Florian says, we've not talked about it, but I love on the ducks, and Nami's like, I'll let the money go. Yeah, she's looking super sad, and everybody is assuming it's because she's sorry to leave Vivi behind. And she tells them that she can't believe that they didn't take the $1 million berry reward. And they're all just like, I can't believe that's what you're upset about. And I'm like, honestly, guys, you could use the money though. And you really did like a lot of work. You really should have taken the money. She's like, we actually earned it. And I'm like, she is not wrong. Team Nami on this one. But Florian says happy shoots like happy tears, maybe. Honestly, that never even occurred to me. I kind of love that they're just like firing off shots like, hooray! Okay, I accept that. Because for a second, I thought it was supposed to be that Mr. Chu had like betrayed them, gotten them to drop their guard, and then he was going to take over. And I was like, that doesn't feel like the vibe he's giving, though. He seems genuinely like emotional about teaming up. So I don't really feel like that makes sense. But, oh, guys, I really just want Mr. Chu to like be part of things. Bon Chan, Bon Clay, whatever it is. Bone. We appreciate you. We love you. We're so happy you're here. You're wonderful. Yeah, he is just, I'm so excited. I have such high hopes for that. And I know that it's very unlikely, but I want it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So, and I mean, if there's a choice between him and Vivi, I mean, come on, if we're open for a new crew member, you know who I'm going to pick. So yeah, the episode ends, like I said, with Hina being like, obviously attack. And that is the end. So I had better wrap up. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, feeding me names, and in general, contributing what your thoughts were when you first watched this. I always appreciate that. I'm always interested, because obviously your opinion is going to change over time just as you grow. It's going to change when you see other things that happen later in the show. It's going to change coming back to it as an adult versus when you first saw it as a kid. But I am always curious what landed with you and what didn't, and how it was for you the first time. So Florian says, you think Vivi will join? I don't know. I kind of think she will, but it felt like they were setting her up to not do that. And I can't tell if they're doing that just so that it'll be more of a surprise when she does, or if they're trying to be like, okay, now she's going to be like a responsible princess who helps her people. Because if she bails and joins up with them after all this, I will be mad, just in principle, not even about, I don't want her on the team, but like, after everything they did and you couldn't stay and handle your fucking country, like I will not be able to forgive that. So We'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Love you all very much. And I will be seeing you in soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.